everybody. Welcome to When Cartoon Worlds Collide. I'm Claire Regan, president of the Deadline Club here in New York City. We are a group of passionate professional journalists dedicated to defending the First Amendment and willing to lighten up every now and then, like tonight. Let me briefly introduce our two celebrity artists who join us live from two parts of the country. Phil Hands is the editorial cartoonist for the Wisconsin State Journal in Madison, Wisconsin. He began drawing cartoons for the State Journal as an intern in 2004 and became a regular freelancer in 2005. He joined the staff of the State Journal in 2013 and is currently the only cartoonist on the staff of a newspaper in all of Wisconsin. A fierce political moderate, Phil's cartoons attack the extremists on both the left and the right. He learned long ago that no political party has a monopoly on bad ideas. Born in Syracuse, New York, Phil grew up in the Detroit area before moving to Wisconsin in 2005. He is a graduate of Kenyon College in Ohio and received his master's degree from the University of Wisconsin, Madison. Phil lives in Madison with his very understanding wife, Tricia, and their two adorable children, Owen and Claire. In his spare time, Phil enjoys drinking coffee, eating cheese, and being cold. Leigh Rubin hails from Nipomo, California, and is not just a cartoonist. He's also an author who has penned 20 books. 2020 marks the 36th anniversary of Leigh's internationally syndicated cartoon, Rubes, which is distributed by Creator Syndicate to hundreds of newspapers and media outlets around the world. In 2018, Leigh began his tenure at Rochester Institute of Technology as the college's first cartoonist in residence. And on November 7, 2018, Leigh and his co-producer Ryan Johnson premiered the pilot episode of their new TV show, Drawing Inspiration, at a special East Coast showing at RIT. Leigh's work has been featured in film, television, and advertising. He also enjoys traveling the country, virtually at this point, giving thought-provoking and entertaining presentations on art, cartooning, and creativity at conferences, colleges, and professional organizations. Thanks, Phil and Leigh, for donating your time to the Deadline Club. Take it away, Leigh.
Okay, thank you, Claire. And hello, everybody. So I have titled my portion of the show. Well, let me explain how this is going to work. I'm going to do a little something, a little presentation of what I do. Phil's going to do some of his work, and then we're going to do a mashup to demonstrate how we both do two. We take the same subject and how we view them from two different perspectives. So the reason I've titled my portion of this is this space left intentionally blank is, well, because I haven't even come up with an idea today yet, and I still have to do that. And this is what I start with each day, and it looks just like this beautiful, big, scary box where I can do anything I want in the world. But after 36 years, the ideas don't maybe come as easy as they used to. So I have certain tips and tricks and prompts that I use to get myself going here. And they are: think of a thought or ask myself a question that I've never had before, surprise myself, but more importantly, surprise you, the reader. Fill the box with something funny, which is really important. That leaves something to your imagination, because I don't believe in just giving it to you. I like you to work a little bit for it. That generally doesn't take more than 15 seconds to get, although I don't care if it takes 2 or 3 weeks, because the payoff's better, and that doesn't get me kicked out of newspapers or other media outlets. That's very bad for the bottom line, and occasionally it happens. So a question I get often is, where do I get my inspiration? And I like to think that inspiration comes from pretty much anywhere and everywhere, and you just have to keep your eyes open for it. And this is for Mother Goose: inspiration struck at the most unexpected moments. And what I'm going to go through here is some of my favorite topics. Now, religion and tolerance. Those are pretty touchy. And this is, doesn't Thog look silly? He must not know that our pile of rocks is the real God. Now, my wife practices yoga, and she did inspire this, although she looks nothing like a Holstein. This is some holy man. Dude's got it all backwards. I also can touch on areas like immigration, but with animals. This is, boy, that really irks me. If they come to our land, they should at least learn to speak our language.
Oh,
I should have let you do that, Phil. Right?
that's fine. Go ahead. No,
No.
I speak Wisconsin.
Phil knows his cows.
We have happy cows here, but now also the environment and taking care of the environment. And this is no more bean dip for me, dear. I'm trying to reduce my carbon footprint.
I love how you got an F word into that joke without saying fart.
Well, one has to be delicate because we don't want to get kicked out of newspapers. There's also recycling, and this is we proudly recycle.
Yeah.
And then politics, which is more kind of your neighborhood that you live in artistically, Phil. But this is, and if I'm elected, I promise a rubber chicken in every pot and a teeny tiny car in every garage. They're all a bunch of bozos, but at least this guy speaks our language.
You could run that cartoon every 4 years, man.
I will.
Very appropriate this week, convention week.
It is, yes. I probably, I don't even remember when I published it originally, but it probably came out around at that time. It could have been a few years ago. Oh no, it was this last year. Never mind. I'll save it for the next 4 though. So we also have cultural appropriation. I try to stay up on what's going on in the world and terminology. This is, oh, for pity's sake, you can't go out dressed like that. Not only do you look silly, it's also cultural appropriation. Then there's dealing with people with personality issues. This is the Narcissism Treatment Center. Please take a number.
I know a certain president who ought to go there.
I'm going to leave all that up to you tonight, Phil.
You can't wait.
Yeah, oh, you're in for a real treat.
Chopping at the bit.
So several years ago, I did a cartoon with the Mayan calendar and how the world was coming to an end. And I decided to update it because this year it would certainly seem that way. This was what happened. I thought the world was supposed to end in 2012. We were off by 8 years. Now, I have a little trick that I like to use because sometimes I want to use a word that is inappropriate for family newspapers. And I know the readers are going to know it. So I use a double bubble where I'll put a bubble over the top of the other dialogue of the other character that's in the cartoon. And this is one of my favorite examples of it. And it pretty much, again, sums up a lot of what's going on out there this year. This is, wow, that's sure not where I want to be when that makes 2 of us.
And despite the elephant, that's not a political gag.
It is not I didn't even think of that. You just wanted the biggest animal you could get. And the fan with the longest cord. So we've got, this isn't the first pandemic we've been in on this planet. And I wanted to point that out because, can you believe it? Already over 50 million, our plague has gone viral. And being, starting what, in March, I think germophobia shot up in this country. This is the Germophobia Treatment Center. You don't even want to touch the door handle. And I was thinking, what do microbes think? Have you ever had that thought? I'm Phil, Claire?
No, I have never had that thought before, but it's an interesting
Anybody
thought.
else out there?
Nor have I.
Well,
That's why you do what you do.
Gosh, I don't know. Do you think there's other infectious life out there? And these microbes are drawn only larger for comedic effect.
They're kind of cute.
Well, they're nice and colorful. They're cartoon microbes. So technology is fascinating to me, and it's changing all the time. I mean, this event is an example of that. We could never have done this several years ago. And I like to stay up to date with that. And we've also had to learn new technology from that and new terms such as push notification. That was never a thing 10 years ago. It's time, you better take, you better take me to the hospital. The baby just sent me a push notification. And then there's you know, how we communicate as humans, how that's changed over time and improved. And this is just the beginning. Someday people will develop a highly sophisticated system of written communication in which they'll be able to express their deepest and most intimate thoughts and emotions. And we see we're all reduced to emojis.
I love this cartoon, Lee. It's just so sharp.
Oh, thank you. Go on, Phil, go on.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, so and now, okay, online dating. So many people meet that way now, and you know that's not how my wife and I met. This was you kids and your online hookups. Why, back in my day, we met the old-fashioned way at the meat market.
And it's important to look at the name of the app that's on that phone there.
That's right. That is a Tender.
Ooh.
And also we have GPS. We have GPS at our fingertips now, which, you know, how would the chicken cross the road now? Another question I asked myself.
Recalculating.
Now, on a more personal note, as I have gotten older, not that this next subject matter affects me at all. I just want to put that out there. But maybe 20, 25 years ago, whenever that little blue pill came out from Pfizer, this is a great subject matter for a cartoon. But how do you do that in a family newspaper? How do you make reference to that the ill that supposedly cured? And this is the real and somewhat embarrassing cause of the mass extinction: reptile dysfunction. And they both look very sad there. Another great part about aging is going in for your exam when you're 50. And I want to point this out. Cartoon characters never seem to age, but if they did, Bugs Bunny would have had to gone in when he was 50 for that exam. He's just turned 80, so he's probably had a lot of those. And this is EFUD MD, proctologist. There was a time and a place for "What's up, Doc?" This was not one of them. You see, he's not very happy about that. Now, another great area of fun to have is all the conspiracy theories and all the other stuff online. It's a wealth or a treasure trove of inspiration. And this is the National UFO Truth Seekers Organization. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The first order of business at this year's symposium will be the search for a new acronym.
Good idea.
And then, then you hear a lot about flat earthers. And I never take sides. I want to point that out. In any of my cartoons, I always like to leave it up to the reader. This is, yes, Johnny, it's true. Some misguided individuals actually believe the earth is flat, but as you can see for yourself, the earth is in fact hollow. Why else would globe companies make them that way? So, while again, it might seem like the end of the world, I had to drag this one out. It just seemed appropriate. It's not the end, but for him, the end is definitely near.
That is a big end.
It's a big end. He's coming to a big end. Now the shelter in place started in March, and a lot of that's been restricted now. And people have become very casual at home and when working from home. And it soon became clear that updated guidelines were necessary to clarify the difference between casual Friday and a little too casual Friday. And because it is the Deadline Club, Claire, I wanted to put this in, and for any Deadline Club members watching, and I hope there's plenty of you out there, this is excellent. Pharaoh will be quite pleased to learn that you've completed construction under budget and ahead of schedule.
And as cartoonists, we never cut corners of close to deadline.
No, we don't, but we cut corners off fake pyramids because it's easier to draw that way.
That's right.
And when people are actually allowed to go outside again, everybody kind of breathed a sigh of relief, as long as they were socially distancing and doing this. And this pandemic has really actually provided quite a bit of inspiration. This is one of the early cartoons that was inspired by being released. This is, thank goodness they've relaxed the rules and opened the beaches. I've really been craving human contact. Okay, so my wife and I are at home a lot, and it's possible we might not always see eye to eye, although we rarely have any disagreements. But and because I believe there is a simple solution for a happy relationship, and this is it. But occasionally, and only very occasionally, I will do something stupid and get sent to the doghouse. And because I know my wife is watching, I wanted to put in her very favorite cartoon. And this is, welcome back, sir. Are you planning on being our guest for one night only, or will this be your usual extended stay?
That's a great cartoon, Lee. I love that one.
Have you ever been in the doghouse, Phil? You ever been there?
Not too often, but it always happens, you know.
It's bound to happen. So I think I'm going to hand
I
it
don't
off
think
to
my
Phil.
wife is watching the show, so I can.
Don't show her then. So Phil, you take it off now. You take it off. Don't take it off. Take it away.
No, don't take it off. No. I'll take it away. How's that sound? So anyway, yeah, I'm Phil Hands. I'm the editorial cartoonist for the Wisconsin State Journal. As you can see from this photograph of me, I have to eat lots of bratwurst because I live in Wisconsin. So I work, unlike Lee, who does a lot of gag cartoons, I work on the opinion page. And while he doesn't like to take sides, I'm always taking sides. And in the opinion page, we have the editorials of the newspaper there. It's the one page that is not like fair and balanced. We are biased. In my opinion, it's the best page in all the newspaper. But so the opinion page features editorials. It features my brilliant cartoons. And the other thing I do with the Wisconsin State Journal is I actually edit all the letters to the editor, including gems like this one. So Lee and I have talked together before in Wisconsin. And so we get this letter to the editor titled, "Cartoonists put on an enjoyable show. What an enjoyable evening at the Verona Library with cartoonists Leigh Rubin and Phil Hands. They both shared their cartoons, thoughts, and giggles with a full house of fans. Leigh Rubin is the Jerry Seinfeld of twisted pop culture, while our very own Phil Hands of the Wisconsin State Journal is the Lewis Black of cartoonists. Both of these comedic artists were delightful to listen to while they shared their craft in thoughtful repartee. Thank you to the staff of the library for a wonderful event." Well, so, you know, when I get to choose the letters, we only get the best ones in there.
I'd like to frame that.
I'll send that to you, Lee. Anyway, so instead of drawing funny animals or superheroes, I spend a lot of time drawing politicians like this guy, Sleepy Joe Biden, except when I draw him in cartoons, he looks more like this. Love that big smile, and the age spots on the sides are kind of my favorite. I also do a ton of editorial cartoons about this next guy. What a piece of work. Except in my cartoons, he looks more like this. Now, the key aspect of any good cartoon, there's like three big things a cartoon has to do. First of all, you want it to have compelling artwork. If it's not fun to look at, nobody's going to look at it. So the artwork is really key to be something engaging and fun to look at. Second of all, you want it to be funny or humorous, and the humor is a good way to disarm people. And sometimes people might hate your guts, but you make them laugh, and they might listen to your cartoon a little bit more than they otherwise would. And third, it's always important to have a very strong point of view. There's this misconception that political cartoons are just funny drawings about the news, but no, they're really about sharing the artist's political point of view. You should always think of cartoons as a column that's written as opposed to, or that's drawn instead of written. So here's one of my recent cartoons about Joe Biden running for office and the current president. There's Average Joe. He's not exciting or inspiring. He's pretty boring. Boring sounds pretty great compared to the 24/7 Trumpster fire. People do complain that I make too much fun of the president, that people will say things like, "Stop disrespecting the office of the president." And I say, "I'll stop when he stops." And this is a fun drawing because it's got my my desk from the State Journal. You can see that I often pin up little photographs of politicians that I draw. And this cartoon also has little tiny drawings behind my head of my two kids, Owen and Claire, who I love. And then what my favorite thing to do with a cartoon is to take a national topic and make it really personal for my Wisconsin audience. So back when the 2016 primary came to Wisconsin, I did this cartoon, which is "Which Candidate is the Cheesiest?" There was Hillary Clinton. She was like cheddar, familiar and bland, but not that bad. Bernie Sanders was like brie, a little too European for the American palate. John Kasich was like mozzarella, too soft with a mild flavor that doesn't inspire the base. Ted Cruz was like Limburger, stinky and offensive, but better than the alternative. And the alternative, of course, was processed cheese food product. Best to leave it in the plastic food wrapper. And you can see on Trump's hat, it says, "Make American cheese great again." Oh, it's so bad.
Bad pun.
I do love the cheese heads, the variety, a celebration of Wisconsin there.
A celebration of cheese heads. That's right. It's not always about politics for a political cartoonist. We do kind of do stuff that's just sort of in society or in the news. I did this cartoon over Mother's Day. It was how do you spend Mother's Day during a pandemic? This is the mom getting her burnt toast and orange juice in bed. And she says, "Gee, this is so much nicer than going to my favorite restaurant for brunch. And when you finish your toast, Mommy, you can help us clean up the kitchen." Yeah, it's a real disaster in there. I love the idea that the kid and the dad ruined the kitchen making toast. And then sometimes a cartoon is just like a tribute to somebody. I did this cartoon after John Lewis died. This is John Lewis, the good troublemaker. So, of course, the number one topic for a cartoonist nowadays has been the coronavirus and how to deal with it. This is one of my first ones back when there was still a shortage of masks and protective gear. I did this one about the president and his messaging. This is his advisor saying, "We should be saving the masks for essential healthcare workers. We're not trying to keep him healthy. We're trying to keep him from saying anything stupid. You're going to need a bigger mask." And I imagine Trump as like a little kid who's stuck in homeschool when he's dealing with the virus. You know, both of them are saying, "It's too hard and I'm bored." And you got Fauci there smashing his hand against his forehead, which I'm sure he does on a consistent basis.
Great Trump hair, Phil. Love the Trump hair.
Yeah, it's always fun to do. And then, you know, another Trump drawing. "Thanks to my leadership, we are putting America first. First in COVID-19 deaths, 150,000. This cartoon's already out of date. But it's not always about Trump. I do make fun of progressives and Joe Biden sometimes too, but also make fun of Trump at the same time. So this is a political primer for progressives about Joe Biden. Cons: not liberal enough. He's not a fan of Medicare for all, not a fan of free tuition, not a pacifist, not woke, not articulate, not coherent, not an outsider, not a woman, not a person of color, not young, not respectful of women's personal space. Pros: he's not Trump. And then we also have Joe Biden recently picked out a new running mate, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris really balances the ticket. Yep, she's not a boring old white dude who's prone to gaffes and inappropriate back rubs. Beyond politics, though, one of the biggest issues this summer has been sort of the racial strife in the streets, spurred on by the horrific death of George Floyd. And this is the cartoon I did after that happened, sort of replacing the officer's head with the racism virus. And I have the coronavirus on the side saying, "And I thought I was a heinous and incurable virus." You know, after Floyd's death, there was protests, which some places led to rioting. Like in Madison, Wisconsin, we had our main street was sort of trashed. State Street was trashed. So one night we had madness, but thankfully the next day the community came together to clean it up, and that was Madison. So that was, I thought, was sort of a nice, thoughtful image.
Yeah.
I've been generally supportive of the protesters, but I don't always agree with them on everything. For instance, I don't like the term defund the police because I don't think it means anything, because I think it means whatever people want it to. So what does defund the police mean? The first person says it means reallocating law enforcement resources for more mental health and social services. It means dismantling the police and replacing them with community groups. It means anarchy. It means scared voters in the suburbs might actually reelect me. And of course, you know, Trump has abused his power as president. I did this cartoon after he squashed the peaceful protests on Lafayette Street and walked across the church to hold that Bible upside down. Sort of, I thought that was just a nice, simple image. Of course, this isn't the president's first problems with race relations. I did this cartoon after the riots in Charlottesville, led by the Unite the Right rallies with those neo-Nazis there. So I have Barack Obama. Barack Obama inspired many young Americans, and so has Trump. And you can imagine this cartoon received quite a bit of outrage from people that like Trump. They don't like being called Nazis, believe it or not. Of course, and then Trump can just be creepy sometimes too. This was after the whole Stormy Daniels affair, and I have this little kid on the couch saying, "Daddy, what did the president do with that weather lady?" Ew. Of course, Trump did finally get in trouble for some of his bad behavior. He got impeached, and people sort of asked, "What did he get impeached for?" Well, this is Clue, impeachment edition. President Orange did it with the telephone in the Oval Office about his phone call with Ukraine. Then, of course, it's not always about politics, as I said before. Sometimes it's more about what's going on in our community. This is my oldest cartoon that I've gotten, this little slideshow. It's from 2010, and it's about Madison. The diocese wanted to prevent people from having birth control, their employees from having birth control, which people didn't like that. So this is the diocese approved birth control. How does it work? You pray you don't get pregnant. And this cartoon led to a several hour-long phone call with Father Brian from the Archdiocese, who was not happy about my depiction of Catholic culture, believe it or not. This is the Wisconsin state flag. We have a sailor on one side and a miner on the other side. I'm not entirely sure why, but it's like all Midwestern flags. It's really junked up in the middle, and there's all sorts of stuff about Wisconsin in it, but no dairy cows, unfortunately. But when Wisconsin passed their gay marriage law back in 2014, I did this really nice, thoughtful cartoon based on the flag, which I thought worked really nicely. But then I got a phone call the day this cartoon ran from some angry old guy saying, "You know, Phil, I've always supported gay marriage until I saw your cartoon, which desecrated our state's beloved flag, and now I hate all gay marriage." I thought that was wow. People take cartoons very seriously sometimes, apparently.
They don't hold back.
Don't hold back. And this is another cartoon about Wisconsin culture. A new study says the average Wisconsinite drinks more than 2 kegs of beer each year. Wow, that seems kind of low. A funny story about this drawing. I did this cartoon. It ran in a Sunday morning, and Madison's not the world's largest city, so I was having breakfast at a diner. And I saw the couple next to me was actually reading the Sunday newspaper, and I saw the guy read this cartoon and laugh out loud. And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool! I made some guy laugh out loud, and I got to see it in person. It's great." And then his wife looks and says, "What's that funny? What's so funny?" So he shows her the cartoon, and she says, "That's not funny at all." And so I did not say hi to them that morning. And I like to draw myself in cartoons and sort of remember that life's pretty good for cartoonists sometimes. This was kind of about the pandemic and how hard it's been. It's been hard on a lot of people, but it's been pretty easy on me as a cartoonist. Ugh, I'm so sick of this pandemic. The kids are driving me crazy. The Zoom meetings for work are slowing down my Wi-Fi, and all my favorite summer festivals are canceled. And here's an essential worker saying, "Oh, you poor thing," because she can't work. Anyway, that's my portion of the show. And Leigh, should we start mashing stuff up together?
I think that would be a great idea. So I'll begin. A little background how I met Phil. I go to Wisconsin every year. I go to Madison to the World Dairy Expo, probably the last 15, 16 years. And what is the World Dairy Expo, Phil?
It's the world's largest cow show for all things dairy.
All things dairy, all the technology that goes on, everything to do with dairy. And I get my fill of phenomenal cheese and ice cream a lot in that week that I'm there. And I happened to visit the State Journal, and this is before my cartoon appeared in the State Journal, and to visit with the editor. And down the stairs comes this young man. He introduces himself, and this was Phil, and he said he was the comics editor. And I thought, how is this possible? What good fortune is it that a cartoonist is in charge of the comics page?
Well, nobody else wanted the job, Leigh.
What?
Nobody else wanted the job. All you get is grief when you take Blondie out of the newspaper.
Well, that is true. It is a very controversial thing, the comics page. They take their comics seriously. But in celebration of my visit to Wisconsin every year, this is welcome to Wisconsin, home of the 50th World Dairy Expo. He goes, "Excuse me, sir, but I believe you were supposed to lead us to the land of milk and honey."
Yeah, and that's a good cartoon image of what this road sign into Wisconsin looks like. But we all know the real road sign looks more like this. You know, Minnesota is known as the land of 10,000 lake. Wisconsin is the land of 10,000 watering holes because we have over 10,000 bars in the state of Wisconsin, which I believe is more than they're all in all of New York State. That's not per capita, that's total. We like to drink.
Wow.
Now, so we've been drawing a lot of cartoons about the coronavirus, both of us, I think. So here's one of my standard political cartoons. It's got the COVID-19 virus crushing Trump's big, beautiful economy. But Leigh, how do you make the coronavirus funny?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Phil. And this is a question I have been asked several times. How do you even be funny right around now? And I think, well, it's my duty, my sworn duty to be funny. And this is so we all know about a deadly virus. What about a humor virus? And while very little is known about this newly discovered humor virus, it appears to be highly contagious and spreads quite rapidly. Those infected are subjected to sudden outbursts of uncontrollable. Okay. And now it was quite by accident, by the way, that this virus looks like Charlie Brown.
Yeah, well, you know, I've done another cartoon where I sort of made the virus a pop culture person on purpose. And this is the virus is the Wicked Witch of the West. Back in the early days, before we were really locked down, and we all thought the best solution was washing your hands, which still is a good solution to wash your hands. Please do that. But here's the Wicked Witch of the West yelling, "I'm melting! What a world! What a world! Who knew soap and water could destroy my beautiful wickedness?"
So I have a whole nother take on the Wicked Witch of the West and maybe washing or liquid. And this is, I'm melting, oh, what a world, who would have thought a weak bladder could destroy my beautiful wickedness? Because everybody knows if your pee is green, you probably have something else going on, much more serious.
I will admit, too, Leigh, when I drew my cartoon, I was totally thinking about this cartoon.
Oh, well, I thank you for that. I owe you a beer next time I'm in Madison.
That's right.
Now, you know, masks have become polarized, and I kind of don't get that because, you know, when I was growing up, a hero wore a mask. Who was that masked man? How should I know? He was wearing a mask.
But you're right, Leigh. Masks have become very polarizing. And some people kind of refuse to wear them. Here's my cartoon about what your mask says about you, because people are using them as a kind of a fashion accessory nowadays. So some people have like a Brewers logo, so they're a true fan. Some people are into Star Wars. You're a geek. Some people have the smiley face. You're a funny guy. And the guy without a mask, well, you're a jerk. And some people, it's not even just about being a jerk. Some people are just really careless and don't get it. Madison's a college town. We got lots of young people going out and being stupid. And so here's my cartoon about that, which is, went out drinking with my friends at a crowded bar last week, and now I have a cough and a fever. You were experiencing symptoms of selfish stupidity.
Now, I don't have a problem wearing a mask. In fact, I enjoy it, and I have no problem social distancing because I had a very special mask made up by a friend of mine that actually masked my face, and it kind of looks like Joe Biden's smile, that rictus smile he's got going there. So, you like to say, people run the other way when I wear this. That mask is going to haunt my dream. Yeah, it's my dogs don't even like it. Now,
yeah, I don't blame them.
You know, a lot of places don't. They have guidelines. You're supposed to have your conscience be your guide rather than have it a law to wear a mask or a rule. And so, what better character to represent a conscience guiding you than Pinocchio? Why, yes, of course, I was careful and maintained proper social distancing, like you told me to. Why do you ask?
I love that cartoon. Now, so Madison, the community I'm in, we've had a mask mandate for a long time, and it's worked pretty well, but not everybody agrees with it. And there are still some people who think that anybody wearing a mask is are mindless sheep. So I did this cartoon which has the Trump supporter as a sheep yelling, "You are all mindless sheep," and the virus is in the background saying, "You tell them."
Now, sheep is okay, I love to draw cows. I love to draw all animals, but sheep are also especially fun. And they came in really handy for this for the next gag because there's a term we're all familiar with now called herd immunity. And this is get a load of this guy. Apparently he hasn't heard of herd immunity. Eh, fellas? Fellas? And I don't know, several years ago, right around Easter, I decided to do an Easter cartoon, and using the bunny ears, the old bunny ears photobomb gag, where one of the characters will stick their bunny ears fingers behind the head of the other character, and it proved to be quite popular. But I thought this last Easter it needed to be updated, and still their very long teeth are sticking out.
I love it. I love it. So I've got an Easter Bunny cartoon as well. So we know that the Easter Bunny brings candy and toys to good girls and boys, and of course, our president brings false hope and lies to gullible guys. We'll open everything up by Easter.
I like your accent there. That's
Thank
good.
you, Lee. Thank you. But leadership is really important because a lot of people don't take the virus very seriously because the president doesn't seem to take the virus very seriously. And even when he does, maybe they don't listen to him. So this is why leadership matters. The virus will probably get worse before it gets better. Wait, so it's not a hoax? And I love the little details in this cartoon of like the people spit coming off their faces and the virus coming out too. That's disgusting.
That's good. Again, those viruses are drawn especially large for comedic effect. Because if you actually see that, people would probably mask up, right?
They would. If the virus was the size of your eyeball, I'd wear a mask.
No, okay. So you did a cartoon about leadership, and to really get a handle on this whole virus, you have to have your ducks in a row. And this is between you and me as a leader, he doesn't exactly exude confidence. So then we've got social distancing, something a term I didn't know existed up until last March. But not everybody social distances, but some people maybe overdo it. And this is for the last time, you moron, social distancing doesn't apply to us. We are the virus.
That's great. And I saw your Petri dish, and it reminded me that I'd drawn a cartoon about a Petri dish recently, except mine was about kids going back to school. So there's little science experiments going on in all the schools to see who gets coronavirus first.
Well, it's a hotbed. It's a perfect place for kids not to want to go to school. And of course, kids have, I think, probably forever tried to get out of going to school. So now, and now a lot of schools, they require you to have your temperature taken. But what about before you even leave home? And this is just one look at his mother's meat thermometer, and Clyde miraculously felt well enough to go to school. Turn over.
I love that cartoon.
Oh.
I saw that big meat thermometer, and I've been drawing a lot of needles recently myself. So, one of the things people have been talking about is, closing down our economy is a cure that's worse than the virus itself. But there are other cures worse than the virus itself. So I did this cartoon about sort of businesses being closed, and my Trump supporting guy saying, we can't let the cure be worse than the virus. And Trump says, that's right. Now bend over and take your injection of bleach.
Ouch. I've never been a huge fan of getting shots, although I have no opposition if I need to get one. And if there is a cure for this, or at least an inoculation for it, what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm blanking out.
Vaccine.
Thank you all. Okay, so it's past my nap time. Sorry. So people are going to get medical professionals going to go get a whole lot of practice giving shots, and this is the nursing school target practice.
That's great. And of course, sometimes I'm a little have a sick mind too, and I see a needle near a rear end. I think immediately about aliens. So this is another political cartoon. This was about investigating the Bidens. So President Trump asks another foreign power to investigate the Bidens. Trump wants us to probe you.
Okay, so if these guys are really coming to Earth, don't you think they want to practice some safety protocol now especially? And this is oh, Mom, do I have to? This is Earth, son. Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we've had a lot of these protective equipment's been in short supply for a long time, and it was especially early in the pandemic. So in short supply, we had hand sanitizer, masks, and in Wisconsin, we had poll workers in short supply because we didn't have enough of the first two.
And then, we've got hand sanitizer was really hard to get a hold of, as I recall. The first few times I went to the supermarket, and now it's not so bad, but everybody was using it. Even Fido here. And this is Shake, good boy. Can't be too careful. You don't know where the master's been.
Can't be too careful.
Sploosh, sploosh.
I love that.
It's got to throw the sploosh, sploosh in.
Sound effects.
And when things are in short supply, people don't make rational decisions. So there was a rash on toilet paper and guns at some point. So here's my guy coming back from the store. Don't worry, honey, I stocked up on toilet paper and firearms. Sounds like they were all out of common sense.
Yeah, and again, this is right during the beginning of when everybody had the stay-at-home order. I had gone to the store and went to the paper products aisle trying to get some toilet paper, and this just struck me. It's not a cartoon, but it's worthy of a cartoon. Look at the product placement there. You have steel wool in the bath tissue aisle.
Yeah, I mean, if you're desperate, man, I guess so.
It's gonna be rough, real rough. But so even if there is toilet paper available, what if you can't reach it?
Aww.
So I feel so bad for that T-Rex. Is that the same T-Rex with reptile dysfunction?
Yeah, he's got all sorts of problems.
Poor guy.
But like I said, on the theme of toilet paper, people when the virus first struck, we sort of had some people overreacted, some people underreacted to it, and I sort of thought of the three bears. So I have Papa Bear here, who's too hot. I need to hoard toilet paper because we're all gonna die. Mama Bear was too cold. Why should I avoid restaurants and bars just so a few old and sick people don't die? And then Baby Bear was just right. Let's stay in, order a pizza, and watch Netflix after we wash our hands.
And staying in was a great idea, because if I was a bear, and this was happening, would you really want to go out there? I don't know about you guys, but with the current state of affairs, I'll be extending my hibernation indefinitely.
Yeah.
Good idea.
And so I draw a lot of bears in Wisconsin, but usually they're for different reasons. I mean, I draw sometimes, there's black bears, there's grizzly bears, there's polar bears, and in Wisconsin, everyone's least favorite bear, the bears. I can't reach the kielbasa.
The bears. I like drawing bears too, Phil. And with this next gag, it was answering the eternal question.
It's answered.
It is now answered.
Sticking on the Chicago Bears theme, I have this great cartoon of Aaron Rodgers lying on a bearskin rug. That's sort of a riff on the old Burt Reynolds centerfold. I often like print out photo reference for my work, and so I printed out a color photograph of Burt Reynolds and hung it up on my desk like you saw earlier in the cartoon, and it sat there for a couple of days before HR said I had to take it down.
Oh,
really? Why?
Inappropriate work environment.
Inappropriate work. Okay, well, so you got a bearskin rug there, and I got a bear that you would have thought was slightly more intelligent because smarter than the average bear indeed, but certainly no match for a Yale man.
Yeah. And as the political guy, I got to throw in a couple of gags about Donald Trump into this part of the mashup. So this is one of my first Trump cartoons. Well, this is one of the first cartoons I did after Trump was elected. And so this is Trump putting on Obama's big shoes. I believe the word you're looking for is huge.
So you got big shoes there, and I think who else wears big shoes? I think we have the answer. Seems a bit tight. Perhaps we should try a size larger.
Shoes are us.
I love that cartoon, Leigh.
Oh,
another Trump one. Trump is a slug. There isn't a racist bone in my body.
You know, what I really like about this one, besides the slime and the tie, are the eyebrows on a slug.
Yeah. You
Like,
also notice that I did the little pink shading around the eyes where the tanning
Oh.
spray doesn't go.
you know, I didn't notice that, but see, it's all in the details, folks. You got to pay attention to the details. So I got no slug gags. I'm sorry, but I do have a snail gag. And I do like mixing up pop culture icons, such as the Morton Salt Girl. And this is really a blast to do this one. So you see the very happy little snail down there, because when it rains, it pours, as the salt misses our little friend.
That's great. That's great. You know, I've drawn some cartoons about Trump and his relationship with Russia. This is Putin. People need to stop obsessing over my Russian ties.
You know, I noticed that you never draw Putin with a shirt on.
Well, there are photographs of him without a shirt on, so why would I ever draw him with the shirt on? That's a silly question.
Okay, well, it wasn't a question; that's a comment. But so I've got, you know, well, I don't have any Putin gags, and this is the closest thing I got to a Russian gag, and this is a serious head injury occurred at the Soviet Rhythm Symposium, or in other words, there was a concussion at the Russian percussion discussion.
And that cartoon is so old. The Soviet Union was still around.
Well,
right?
yeah, that is 1988. So yeah, thanks for making me feel that much older.
You're dating yourself, Leigh.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. So I'm sticking on the Putin theme here. People always said that Obama was being outsmarted by Putin, that Putin was playing chess while Obama was playing checkers. And so this is playing the foreign policy game. Obama says, "King me." Putin says, "Checkmate." And Donald Trump says, "Scissors."
And I noticed you have the what is it, the N backwards in Putin. So that's a nice little detail there.
Yeah, I'm trying to make it look like, is it Cyrillic? What is the name of I don't know. I'm not that smart, but whatever the language is in Russia, how do they write?
You fooled me. So we got scissors in the last one. We got scissors in this one. At the short-lived, I should have listened to my mother marathon.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of fun ways to draw Trump. I enjoyed this cartoon of him as a pirate. And this is with his tax returns being buried. "Arr, the Democrats must never find me buried treasure." And I like I mostly like the details on this one that's got the Tweety bird for the parrot and also the little tiny hook on his hand.
It's a very tiny hook. So you got buried treasure, and I love drawing pirates and buried treasure gags. So this is, according to this map, the pirate's booty lies just over the next hill.
Apparently you like drawing men's rear ends in cartoons too. That's like your fourth or fifth man butt.
Fart jokes and rear ends. Okay. You know, you gotta push the limits.
Speaking of fart jokes, so I've got another Trump gag. This one's sort of about immigration and the border. I've got it. Dragons. We'll put dragons on the border. Who let him watch Game of Thrones?
You got a flaming dragon right there. And weren't we just talking about fart jokes? So
we were.
Okay,
Leigh.
so let me get this straight. You scorched a hole in your shorts because you tried to light a what?
So dragons are extinct or mythical, but unfortunately a lot of species in Wisconsin are endangered. So these are some of the Wisconsin endangered species. There's the rusty-patched bumblebee, the gray wolf, the whooping crane, and very unfortunately, the small dairy farmer.
Oh.
And now that is sad, because we do have the Vanishing Species exhibit, and this is, that's funny. They were here just a few minutes ago.
They vanished.
Yeah, I like that. You know, so thankfully, one of my favorite animals is not extinct despite ever increasing climate change that threatens their habitat. We found out recently the Antarctic sea ice was at an all-time low, so I did this climate change denier with his water wings waiting in the water. Come on in, the water's fine.
And of course, everybody loves penguins, and they're just adorable little things. But who wouldn't love a penguin in a Speedo? And I'd like to see him refute this evidence of climate change. There's a little penguin butt there. You're probably not going to see those very often. So it's worth the price of admission.
No So moving from climate change to just water pollution, everyone cares about drinking water and the quality of water. A couple years ago, the Olympics were in Rio de Janeiro, and there was a bit of a snafu over the pollution in some of the water around there, and people got upset about it. So here's my ugly, angry American with, of course, who's wearing socks with sandals, yelling, "What a disgrace! How could you let the water get so polluted?" And the guy from Brazil says, "Don't worry, we imported your drinking water from some place called Flint, Michigan."
Uh-oh.
Now, I again, pay attention to the details here. They got the dead fish. You got to have a dead fish if there's going to be polluted water. You got to have a tire. It's a requisite. You got a bunch of other little details, cans and bottles, and an apple core. Got to have an apple core. Now, for all the pollution and all the bad stuff, America has a lot of great things. I mean, we do have generally a very clean, sanitary system and our clean water and air. And I want to salute that. And especially I like it when dogs can speak for me. And this is public drinking fountains with complimentary splash guards. Is this a great country or what?
That's great. But sometimes I feel if we aren't as great as we used to be. I did this cartoon last year after the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. This is July 1969. Wow, when our nation works together, we can do anything. Just think where we'll be 50 years from now.
And it's true, 50 years ago, or I guess it's 51 now, right? Was it 50? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 51 now, where the U.S. landed on the moon and Neil Armstrong got out, and it was historic for a number of reasons, but one lesser known reason was that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, and a whole lot of frequent flyer miles for me.
That's great.
Now, well, I gotta say, again, I don't do editorial cartoons, and rarely, unless they're historical figures from way back in the day, I will not even put a president or presidential candidate in. But I just couldn't resist a good chicken gag. And this is no Sanders. No, I have nothing against Bernie. It's the Colonel that scares me silly.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bernie does scare me silly, and I can say that out loud. But I did this cartoon with Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden as the campaign was winding down. These are the grumpiest old men. And Bernie Sanders says, "I'm leading a political movement. Nobody cares, Bernie."
So you got grumpy old men, and then you got just plain grumpy. Yes, I'm afraid he's always like that, even more so when he just wakes up. So you probably might think this could be me after a nap, and you would be right.
That's right.
And we got the Seven Dwarves, and so as long as we're on that theme, at least very briefly on that theme, tackling an area as well, not maybe meant for the comic pages as a sexual harassment would be. One would have to be very delicate about the situation and leave a lot to your imagination, but still being able to show the comeuppance of the perpetrator of such behavior. And this is there would be a loud thud, and gone forever was the eighth and undoubtedly most obnoxious dwarf, Gropey. So he's about to get it.
That's right. And then I got my own. President Trump's been known for being gropey. So is Joe Biden, though. This is Joe Biden thanking Amy Klobuchar after she drops out. "Thanks for dropping out and endorsing me. Here's a back rub."
Rub, 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 rub.
Right. And so, I don't know when it was, a couple months ago. I actually came on a Twitter feed. I came across this photo, "Give me liberty or give me COVID-19." And I thought the timing just could not have been better, because that very same day I had run this cartoon. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Whew, made it just in time for the good part.
Yeah, and Leigh, I have been drawing historical figures a lot in my cartoons because of this president. So I draw the founding fathers a lot nowadays. This is President Trump after he was not impeached, saying, or was not removed from office. "I told you I'd defeat those losers." And here's the founding fathers with the impeachment process. There's Alexander Hamilton, George Washington, James Madison, John Adams, and good old Benjamin Franklin. And so, yeah, the president was not impeached. And some people had hoped that maybe he would learn a lesson. And Republicans said that, look, he'll learn a lesson just anyway. So he was impeached, but he wasn't removed from office. And the Republican, here's the Uncle Sam saying, "You were right. Impeachment has taught him a lesson. He can get away with anything." You can see Trump jumping on the couch, spilling his Diet Coke, writing on the walls, "Donnie was here," hammering nails into the coffee table. So rude.
Eating cookies.
Every possible thing a kid could do wrong.
Always.
So if you give kids a mattress or a couch or something to jump on, they're just going to jump. This is nothing, dear. Go back to sleep. It's just the kids jumping on the bed again.
Yeah. And I love newspapers. I work for a newspaper, so I think they are the best form of media. I find that people often get distracted by the talking heads on the cable news that just sort of shout at each other. So here's my tribute to newspapers. There's cable news, which is more heat than light, and newspapers, which are more light than heat.
And this is my tribute to newspapers here too, because I'm still an old school guy. I get a paper and I enjoy my paper and I enjoy my comics. And this is skepticism reaches all-time high. Don't believe everything you read.
Yeah, it's great. Here's a cartoon I did about funding for the border wall. I just decided an ambulance is fun to draw, and it's fun to draw. Wee-oo, wee-oo, wee-oo. But the guy's saying, "My goodness, it sounds like there's a real emergency." Nope, he's just in a hurry. You can see Trump driving his wall-funding ambulance while he's tweeting. Not safe.
Oh.
Now, I want to point this out. Anytime you draw an ambulance, you've got to have it off the ground. At least one wheel has to be off the ground. And you've got the whole thing off the ground.
Absolutely.
So, and I've got an ambulance gag here, and it's only got one wheel. But so Edith, you didn't tell me your son finished law school?
That's great. Sort of sticking on the whole health theme. We all know that vaping is bad for us, but the companies always say that they're not trying to appeal to kids. So this is the vaping companies marketing to kids. Don't be ridiculous. There's bubblegum flavor, chocolate chip cookie flavor, and binky flavor.
So what better way to market vaping to kids would be, we'll have a very, very famous character from one of the most popular franchises of all time, and that would be Darth Vapor.
The Empire Smoke Shop.
Yes, the Empire. It goes for the Empire State.
Yeah. Well, moving from vaping to vaccines, vaccines have been controversial in the past. There are kind of anti-vaxxers out there that don't think they work, but right now we're all sort of hoping for a vaccine for this horrible virus. Russia has one, but I'm not sure how good it is. The Russian vaccine, Putin says it's great. I don't know if I trust this Russian vaccine. Are you some sort of crazy anti-vaxxer?
Now, I don't have any anti-vaxxer cartoons, but I do have an anti-waxer cartoon. We specialize in Brazilians, total hair remover, radical anti-waxers.
I love that. That's great. One last big issue that's been going around for a couple of years now is the Confederate monuments, or even just monuments in general, that are maybe insensitive. And I sort of have I think there's a solution that could work for everybody. Donald Trump should approve of this historically accurate solution to Confederate monuments. This is Robert E. Lee, Supreme Commander of the Confederate Army, and loser.
Again, since I don't take sides, I like to present my viewpoint through animals or their viewpoints. And apparently, these guys, although they appear to take sides, maybe really don't. This is preserve our history, save our statue. Truth be told, I don't really care what happens to it either, just as long as it's replaced with an equally suitable restroom.
That's such a sharp commentary.
Yeah.
Love it. And this is my last cartoon in the show today. I did this cartoon when Stephen Hawking died, and I just thought it was a nice message. We are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star, but we can understand the universe. That makes us something very special.
That is a beautifully drawn cartoon. And I got to ask you, Phil, did you actually draw all of those dots?
Me in Photoshop, you know it.
Oh, see, I'm so old school. I'm still using a little a whiteout pen and a lot of ink. to do that. And I think as a cartoonist, we kind of have to we live in two worlds, the real one and the fantasy world. And this is spectacular, isn't it, son? In fact, astronomers say there may be billions little more white dots beyond the border of this cartoon.
I love that cartoon, Leigh.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think it goes nicely with yours, Phil. So,
okay, so that's all we're doing, right?
Well,
That's the end of the mashup. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I do want to inform you that your legions of fans have submitted legions of questions.
Oh my gosh.
Are you ready to tackle a few?
Well,
I'm
have
ready,
they been
yeah.
have they
There's
been carefully
phone calls.
screened?
They've been sort of screened, yes. And I'll throw a few out. The first one is for both of you.
Okay.
How do your bosses or your editors handle some of the subject matter that you cover in your cartoons? Do you ever run up with a problem with them? Do they ever censor you or tell you that can't run? Do you have to get approval?
Phil, you take that one first.
Yeah, I get approved. Yeah, my cartoons are approved by my editor. We sort of talk through stuff. Sometimes we talk about depictions. You know, with all the kind of racial strife this summer, we've actually been doing a lot of talking about depictions of African Americans in cartoons and how to be respectful and accurate. So that's been sort of an ongoing thing. But yeah, I get approved by an editor just so they're not surprised when there's a cartoon the next day. Usually they're not very sensory. They don't usually censor me, but it's usually about whether it's accurate and funny.
Will they ask you to make an adjustment?
Yeah, from time to time.
Yeah, and you'll comply.
Yeah.
You
Unless I
like
think they're
work.
Stupid.
Oh,
I like getting a paycheck at the end of the day.
Yeah, you like.
No, I mean, no, but I have pretty good. I've always had pretty good editors who I think make my cartoons better as opposed to worse.
Oh, that's good. Good, excellent. Leigh?
Well, typically, if I do something that's pushing the bounds of good taste, and I think I have just exquisite taste, but what I will get a note from my editor. It doesn't happen very often. It's that you may want to offer a substitute. So that's a very gentle way of saying put something else in. So an editor will. Yes. So they'll. So I leave it up to the editors of the individual papers that will have a choice. There was one time where I was doing a cartoon with bees that were smoking, and it was a pun about calming bees with smoke. And my editor at the time said this could be taken as a pro-smoking gag, so maybe you want to do a substitute. And I thought, oh, I don't want to do that. I like this gag a lot. But then rather than get whiny, I came up with what I thought was a creative solution. And I think it was the first cartoon ever, maybe in the comics pages, where it had a disclaimer, like on the side of a box of cigarettes, like warning, one of the warning that this is just a cartoon and bees don't really smoke. So, don't get upset about this. and that's how I didn't have to put a substitute in.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. What about when you're having trouble coming up with an idea or concept? Do you ever get cartoonist block?
I think that's a daily occurrence.
And how do you handle it?
Sometimes it's just worse than others. No, I mean, most days it's kind of a struggle to figure out. I mean, my world, what I'm doing is I'm sort of saying, what's going on in the news? 1, 2, how do I feel about that? And then 3, how do I turn that opinion about what's going on in the news into something interesting and exciting for readers to engage with? So it's often that third part that's the hard part, figuring out how to get that viewpoint across. And some days it's a monumental struggle, and some days it's not a big struggle at all. The best way to do it is for me to sit down with a pencil and paper and just start sketching stuff out and to see where it takes me. Yeah. And I found that once I've got one sort of solid idea down, doesn't matter how good it is, but if it's actually a cartoon idea that actually makes sense, from there it's a lot easier to come up with the next one. It's like I kind of break the seal on the dam, and then the ideas flow through.
Good strategy.
Well, he pretty much answered that.
Same thing for you?
That question. I mean, I have a rule: if I have my pre-printed border and if I tape it down to the desk, I'm committed to drawing a cartoon that day. And if you could see my desk, it's blank. I have that border on there, and it's 5 o'clock here, and I still haven't even drawn a cartoon yet. So I got work to do.
That's a good segue into my next question from one of your fans. What are your deadlines, and is it hard to meet them?
It depends on the day. The minimum daily requirement, like the vitamin, you have to do a cartoon a day if you're published 365 days a year. So I've never missed a deadline it'll be 36 years in November. So far it's working. And sometimes, like Phil said, it's a struggle, and you just want to pound your head on the tree like Charlie Brown does, or resting like, this is the greatest job in the world until right now.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel like the best job in the world. And my deadlines, believe it or not, as an editorial cartoonist, it can be, sometimes I work a little bit ahead. Sometimes it's right on breaking news that happens that day. There have been days where I have, a story's broken at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've sat down and drawn a cartoon that was ready at 5:30 to put into the newspaper. But oftentimes I work, oftentimes I'll work maybe a day ahead of time, or usually, as long, I'm actually kind of in charge of making sure the page is done for the day. So it's whenever I finish the cartoon is when the deadline is.
You set your own.
Stop the presses.
I've done that before, actually.
I would
stop the presses. It's not a cartoon story, but yeah, I've been responsible for stopping the presses before. It wasn't fun.
This one's for Phil. Do you ever wonder, or do you happen to know, if any of the politicians in your cartoons have ever seen your cartoons or commented on them? Biden, Trump, Obama?
Well, I don't know about Biden or Trump or Obama. I do know that some of the local Wisconsin, the former governor, the governor of Wisconsin knows who I am, and not always a fan of me, whatever governor it is. I'll run into Tammy Baldwin, our U.S. senator, in the coffee shops in Madison, and we'll chit chat, and she'll talk about her favorite cartoons that I've drawn about her. So yeah, they know who I am. In fact, Scott Walker, actually, the former governor of Wisconsin, after an editorial board meeting that I was in with him, told me a funny story about his bald spot. I always drew him with his bald spot, and he said, Phil, about the caricature you draw about me, my ears are too low, but the bald spot's just right. But honestly, Phil, the bald spot is not male pattern baldness. I hit my head in a cabinet a couple of years ago, and now the hair just won't grow back. And I thought that was really funny that he wanted to share this anecdote with me that I was sure was entirely made up. But I remember it was even actually covered in the New York Times when he dropped out of the race. The New York Times described, this is the governor from Wisconsin who once blamed his bald spot on a cabinet. And that was that story.
Interesting. Yeah. How do you guys handle negative or critical comments from your viewers? And maybe you never get them?
Me? Whoever gets those? I can't imagine being published and getting something. Aren't we beloved by all? No, I just set on the automatic response from my computer that says, "Thank you for contacting Rubes Cartoons. Your letter is one of 10,000 we receive every day, and we can't respond to every one of them. But be rest assured, you'll be put on our mailing list and receive emails daily with daily updates about how things are going at Rubes Cartoons. Thank you for writing."
That's great.
How about you, Phil? You must get some political comments from people if you're going one way or the other.
My usual, if I get an angry phone call, the usual thing I like to do is I like to make sure I always have like a cartoon I can be working on or a drawing I need to do. And then I just draw for 20 minutes and say, on the telephone.
That's good. Just let them get it all out, right?
Yeah. I'm always surprised. A lot of my hate mail, a lot of my angry phone calls come at 11:30 on a Saturday night. I'll get a bunch of phone calls from angry readers because they know I'm not in the office.
Voicemails.
Yeah, they just want to vent and yell.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're accessible.
Yeah.
Even by voicemail. For either of you, both of you, when did you first know that you were funny? Or are you still trying to figure that out?
Again, I think it depends on the day. You hope. I mean, I did my first cartoon when I was in kindergarten quite by accident, and my parents laughed at it, and my kindergarten teacher laughed at it, and I thought, well, okay, that worked, but it was quite unintentional at the time. But I know, here's kind of how I have a gauge now. When I create a cartoon, I'll take it and show it to my wife, and if she gives the polite laugh, like, oh, I'll know, well, this isn't working. But if she goes, that's sick, then I know it's a winner.
Test audience.
I'm not entirely sure I'm particularly funny. You know, I don't.
You're still trying to decide. It's a lifetime process.
I'm definitely not the life of the party. I'm kind of, you know, political cartoonist. We're kind of the we're the cartoonists no one wants to invite to the parties. We start talking about, you know, serious policy issues that no one wants to be. We're downers, man.
I don't know. I've gone out with you after many events, and you're a pretty funny guy. You're being very modest here, Phil.
So how has your process evolved with changing technologies? What devices and software are the most useful in creating your cartoons these days?
Me, Phil, you want to take it?
Well, I mean, I started drawing digitally about a year ago, and it sort of accelerated during the
that'll help people get the
pandemic.
idea.
So now I do almost all my drawings on my Surface
Look at this
Pro
speed here.
tablet computer, and I use a
How do you do that?
called Clip Studio. And are you
So I see the
drawings right now? Oh, great!
This is great.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I've been doing a lot of
this is
digital
something
drawing.
Phil's real good
I
at.
like to get into the office.
I've seen him draw with a little
with a pad of paper and
is it a Surface?
and a pencil
Microsoft
and
Surface?
just draw.
Oh, that's great.
Analogly, if that's the word. But yeah, technology has made it.
And it's important.
Sometimes
you always
it
have
makes
to
it easier,
keep
but sometimes it makes
the
it harder
bald
too,
spot
because
right there for
you can
Trump.
get too finicky about all the little details you can put in a
It's on the
digital
right
drawing.
side.
Well, I noticed that Biden has one of those too. I still
Biden's really bald.
99.99%.
Biden and Trump actually they have very like that. The hair is fun for both of them.
Paper. I have dipped my toes into digital a bit, especially you know, cleaning up stuff and before I submit it. It's a lot easier now, and I am looking forward with great fear because it's like I got to learn this whole new technology, and although I'm looking forward to it, I'd like to get much more proficient at it, just because it's kind of a cool new, well, not new anymore, but I mean, it's a cool medium, and it'd be just fun to be able to mess with that and play around with it, sketch and doodle like in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm. So I think our viewers got to see how you draw a cow. They just got to see.
Oh, okay.
They're going to see it now. How you draw a cow, because that was one of the questions you got a request. Please, Leigh, show us how you draw a cow.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Not have a cow, draw a cow.
Just draw a cow. It's just a cow head.
Is that the animal that appears most often in your cartoons, the cow?
A lot of times, but it's really I try to be a broad, diverse base
fair and balanced when it comes to the
fair and balanced, all sorts of animals and people and inanimate objects.
Have you always had a fascination with cows, or is this sort of a
just all? I'm like I say, I have this ancient book that my mother had, how to draw animals, since I was a little kid, and it's great. I still have it. It's on the bookshelf, that messy bookshelf behind me, and it still comes in handy for reference. So.
Here's another one that sort of hints at a bigger question, which is an important question. Both of you rely on print newspapers for your living, how you make a living. And, you know, readers and your fans know that print newspapers are declining. And so are your royalties, or, you know, however that works out from your syndicates, is that declining? I think your fans are concerned about your well-being and your income. Can you give us a little update on that and reassure us?
Well, you know what I think? I think you need to go out and subscribe to more newspapers.
Good idea.
Right? I mean, who doesn't? I still love the tactile feel of print. You know, it's not and you get a real byline that can't be altered or changed. and and those reporters have to be held to a higher standard than a lot of stuff I believe you would see online. At least you have the physical. Have I been impacted by this? Yes. Am I still doing this as my full-time job? Yes. So, I'm hanging in there with along with everybody else.
Good.
Phil?
That's good to hear. How about you,
I mean,
Phil? Are you concerned, Phil? Because you work mostly in your cartoons. Your cartoons don't appear in the newspaper's website as well, or do they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I mean, so I'm on staff at the newspaper, so I'm an employee there,
Right.
and so yes, I'd like them to do well, but we don't really think of ourselves as a newspaper anymore, as much of a media company, and so we spend a lot of time doing stuff that's going to specifically be good content on the website, and so the biggest issue is how to monetize that web traffic, and that's sort of the big question for I think all of media. Is how do you turn all these because nowadays more people see my cartoons online. I guarantee you more people see my cartoons online and via social media than they do in the state journal newspaper. It's just I have a much wider following online, and I think all media is consumed a lot more online, and it's never been more needed, and I think it's really highly consumed now. The question is the economics of how to make people pay for it and how to make it profitable again.
Yeah.
Well, I have an idea. Every time a cartoon of ours is shared on Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg needs to write us a check, or it should be automatically deposited.
That idea.
Okay, I'm putting it
Great
out there.
idea.
Okay,
Great idea.
thank you.
We'll make it happen after this is over tonight.
Great. Get on that.
This one is directed to Leigh. What does it feel like to be the only cartoonist in residence on any college campus around the globe? And at the end of this question is more of a statement. We love you, Leigh.
Wow. Did anybody from RIT write that question? I am just absolutely thrilled to death with it. It's given me, I got to go back to college starting in 2018. And visiting RIT is just, it's kind of this dream. I could go on and gush about this. And again, I'm wearing notice the RIT and artist shirt.
Very clever.
Yes, I didn't make that up. This is my favorite T-shirt because it's so cool. But anyway, it's I get to work with students and faculty and staff, and it really is a joy. It's expanded my, it got me out of the house from behind my desk, and I get to meet a lot more very interesting people. It just feels, it's 100. I'm always, every time I go there, it's like it's more than I ever expected it would be. It's not like, well, that was a letdown. No, it's always above that.
That's great.
The big question is, how are the toga parties, Leigh?
Well, I'm not invited, so I think I'm above the age of that. I'm sorry. I'll let you know, though.
This one's a little on the dark side, this question. If you were able to draw or anything on your tombstone, what would it be, or what would it say as a cartoonist to show everybody that you were a cartoonist?
Coming soon.
We've stumped them.
I'd say coming soon, not quite here yet.
We'll just leave it at that.
I don't know. Honest, I guess I've never thought about that question before, but
that's good.
I probably have like a little. When I draw by hand, I use a kind of a fancy brush that's dipped in ink. I'd probably just like have that engraved at the end of the tombstone to make it look like that wrote the markings on the grave. But I haven't thought about it too much.
Yeah, that's good.
I know afterwards I'm not going to be thinking about it at all.
We've thought about it enough. Moving on. Are there any cartoonists, past or present, that you draw, get it, pun, inspiration from?
I think anybody you've ever read. My earliest inspiration came from Warner Brothers cartoons, Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam and Tweety Bird, all those, just that whole raft of characters. I still love watching Warner Brothers cartoons. I couldn't wait back in the day when it was only Saturday morning. It's just wonderful. I mean, and the gags were great, and they were written on 2 levels a lot, which is something I try to get away with too. So kids can read it, and adults will have this second joke worked in. But yeah, and in newspapers, of course, I've been reading cartoons since I was a little kid. My dad read every cartoon in the paper, so that was a huge influence. I don't have a particular favorite. I'm whatever makes me laugh the most that day is what that's my favorite today. I'm finicky like that.
Good. Phil, anything for you?
Oh, my favorite cartoonist is Leigh Rubin. I mean, like, clearly.
Oh, go on.
No.
I didn't pay
I do like Leigh's work a lot, and he has inspired me from time to time. But I became a cartoonist because I was in love with Calvin and Hobbes. So that's that strip inspired me to do what I do. I actually went to the same college as Bill Watterson, who wrote Calvin and Hobbes, and we had the same art professor.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And he told me how much I suck compared to him. It's always nice.
Well, words of inspiration.
But Bill Watterson is still a huge influence on me. I think a lot of cartoonists are really inspired by Bill Watterson. I'm a big fan of another alum from the same college I went to, a guy named Jim Borgman, who draws the comic strip Zits, and he's a very good political cartoonist as well. Pat Oliphant's a huge inspiration. Herb Block is a huge inspiration for me. I really just, I'm fascinated with all sorts of old political cartoons. I can look at old political cartoons all day long and try and learn about the history and what these people are talking about. So that's a lot of where I'm coming from.
A lot of legends you mentioned. Both of you, what's the hardest thing you've ever had to draw, either a person or an object? Have you ever struggled drawing a person or an object, or does it just come naturally and flow?
Oh, I don't think it comes so naturally sometimes. It really, sometimes it'll just be weird. You've drawn something 1,000 times, and that particular day, whatever it is, it's like giving you a hard time, and you just can't get the angle right. So then that's when you use a trick where you cover it up with something else. Or cut the corner off or something, just somewhere. I don't want to even try anymore. I just want to get the gag out, and it's not dependent on how well that particular area is drawn. We'll just get rid of it. It ends up on the cartoon editing floor.
I find myself often coming up with ideas that require me to draw crowds of people where you can see each person, not like from a distance. Like when you get far away from a crowd, you can easily draw just some shapes to make it look like a crowd. But if you actually want to identify people, you're like, now I got to draw 80 people in this cartoon, and I really don't want to do it. So that's what I hate to draw.
Yeah. And I think you covered this a little bit in your presentation, but how do you find humor in dire situations like pandemic and recession? And how do you know to keep it, on the lighter side and not go too much into it and offend people or push people away? You want to comment on that a little bit?
You want to take that one, Phil?
Well, I don't always try and be light. Sometimes I did try and be really dark and push people away. Yeah,
you showed some poignant images that you drew. So they're poignant. They're just poignant.
Yeah, I'm not always about keeping it light.
Right.
Sometimes I get dark, and if the moment calls for darkness, I'm dark.
I really think my job is to bring a smile to people or give them a reason to laugh and to get them to think. But so I try to avoid the sledgehammer approach, and if I can make something lighter in some way, I will. But if it's just not going to work, I'll just even stay away from it. If I can have social distancing viruses, that's different. But
do each of you have a favorite cartoon that you've done, or a favorite cartoon of the other?
What you had one, Phil, and it wasn't in today's presentation.
Lee, yours might be the bunny rabbits with the bunny ears.
Well, that my
That's a
favorite is.
popular one. Popular.
I always like to think my favorite one is the one that got me through the last deadline. Just like, God, I'm done. I'm good. It's time to go take the dog for a walk.
I know my favorite cartoon I've ever drawn was a couple years ago in Wisconsin. Arizona had this immigration law where people could stop the look Mexican and ask them for their papers. And some guy proposed doing that in Wisconsin. And so I did this cartoon. So Wisconsin, at the Brewers game, there's these very famous racing sausages that it's seventh inning, they run around the ballpark. And one of the sausages is a chorizo. And so I had a cop stopping the chorizo and letting the other sausages run past. It was like Wisconsin politics, sports, everything. I just loved that image of the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite Leigh cartoon is the Russian percussion discussion. I don't know why that gets to me every time. I can't stop giggling whenever I see that.
Oh God, we got throw that one up again there, Alex. That'd be good. We'll just keep them laughing. I guess I've seen you. It's like Phil and I have done at least 10 or 12 live shows together, and there are some that I just cannot remember, but I know I'm going to kick myself afterwards because I'm going to remember it, and I just can't remember right now. But the chorizo one was and the cheesehead one is absolutely one of my favorite.
Oh yeah,
because there's a lot of thought that goes into each one of those, which is terrific.
Great. Well, we're winding down with just a few last questions here.
Okay.
Do you get recognized when you go out and about in your hometowns? Oh, there's the cartoonist, or are you as famous, your person, as your cartoon characters?
Well, since I don't have any set cartoon characters, I could say I'm never recognized except for occasionally at the post office. Someone will, because I've spoken to a Rotary group locally, or a Kiwanis group, or some, a service organization, that sort of thing. Then so, hey, Lee, it's nice to see you. And that's kind of nice.
Not because you're standing next to the mug shots, though. That's not what
that's true. Or especially if I wear that creepy mask, then people really recognize you.
Because you're actually your signatures are in your cartoons in the corner, but
right.
not your actual.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you never put your photo.
I want people to read the cartoon. They don't have to look at my face.
It's a distraction.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Lee.
Oh well, I mean.
No, I actually, I was giving a talk at a elementary school once, and a kid asked how I went grocery shopping because I was so famous. I said usually not a problem, but I've been surprised actually that I a couple of times I've been sitting at like my local coffee shop where I often go to draw or just hang out, and people will say, "Wait a minute, are you Phil Hands?" Which is always fun. And then actually, the funniest story about this is there's actually a cartoonist in Madison, Wisconsin, who's much more famous than I am, named John Kowalik. And he's done a lot of game development. He developed the game Apples to Apples, if you've ever played that game. And so he's kind of a big deal. And he once told me that he was sitting at a coffee shop and he was drawing at a coffee shop, and somebody came up to him and says, "Wait a minute, are you Phil Hands?" And he said,
"That's great." So, looking forward, are you guys just gonna keep cartooning? Do you have any other plans? Are you hoping to do this through your careers? Do you ever think about that, or is it just one day at a time?
Well, aren't we taking our show to Broadway here, Phil?
Sounds stressful.
Yeah, it does. It turned it into a musical.
I mean, you love what you do, so
yeah.
We can tell. We can tell you're passionate about it.
Well, I mean, I am, because for quite a few years now, I've been working with my partner Ryan Johnson, the other Ryan Johnson director, who on a TV show, more of a docu-reality show, where we both are on camera a lot, and there's bits of animation, but it's a celebration of creativity, where we would go around and visit different creatives and go behind the scenes and see their process, and where I would get inspiration and create cartoons from that. And Ryan operates a special effects breakaway prop business, and which people can watch that if they like. It's on YouTube, Drawing Inspiration. And that's been just a really fun project, although it's taken a whole lot longer than I ever would have imagined. But it's been a very interesting and learning experience for me. And so
a good spin-off of your cartooning career. That's great. How about you, Phil?
I probably ought to have a plan B, but I don't. This is what I've always wanted to do, so I'm pretty happy doing it. I'm working on I have a couple side projects. Working on a kid's book right now.
That's great.
Some simple stuff like that, but nothing dramatic that's going to replace my income as a political cartoonist. So I'd like to keep doing this for a while if my bosses are listening.
Well, that's great, guys. I think it's a wrap. On behalf of the Deadline Club of New York City, I want to thank you for sharing your cartoons, your careers, your hopes, and your dreams tonight. And I think we're going to show our audience how to stay in touch with the two of you, how to get in touch with the two of you. I know you like to hear from your fans, only fans.
I don't mind critics either. I got a thick skin.
Okay,
I have an email set up just for the critics. But can Alex take a bow here? Are you on screen? Are you on screen there, Alex? Because
I will add my voice here. No, and I will say thank you guys. This is an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed it, and it was a great show.
Yeah, he is. He is the technical wizard that made this all possible. And so put in some fake applause for yourself.
I can do just that. Thank you, Leigh.
Okay. Sure.
Good teamwork. Good teamwork. And thank you to our audience tonight. And thank you guys for supporting the Deadline Club.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks everybody. Awkward Zoom goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.